paparazzi. The line in paparazzi, which is wonderful, is, I'll follow you until you love me. I'll follow you until you love me. And what is that about? That's about the follower who feels that they are building an intimate relationship with her. Now you say, well, that's rubbish. That's a distant relationship with 15 million people. The other thing she does is actually act upon it. Facebook, as a platform, has lots of discussion threads. Go to Lady Gaga platform, and I was on the platform looking at it the other night, and you see lots of discussions about her Marry the Night clip. One of the threads that I followed earlier this year was from her gay fans. And just before she released the Born This Way album, there was a discussion thread on her Facebook page which was talking about a distribution deal she was doing with Target. Now, what some of her gay fans told her on her Facebook page was that Target was giving money to a Republican politician who was anti-gay rights. She responded on her Facebook page, and within 2 days, she dropped the deal with Target. It's reciprocity. She's engaging with you. Okay? Now you think, is this possible in the rest of the world? No, we can't engage with every customer. Well, if you have a look at this is the watch I'm wearing. And go and have a look at this guy. This is a guy called Christopher Ward in the UK, and he's a boutique watchmaker. But you know what he does? He engages with his followers. And he designs watches, Swiss watches, very nice, automatic watches. He has a watch blog. And on that watch blog, what you can do is you can write to him in terms of the design you would like for next year. And in fact, he has a competition where all of the guys like me who are watch crazy guys can interact on that blog and vote on designs. And what does he do? He actually he produces that watch for his members. Okay? And you're seeing this in the pharmaceutical industry where Lady Gaga is connecting with her fans, but in the pharmaceutical industry, I've seen Facebook pages being used by drug companies to connect with people who have diseases like epilepsy. Yeah? Conversations with your customers. So, what we see here is very, very important because it's not just about who am I, but it's also about who are we. And what she has been able to build with social media is this mass intimacy where people feel a connection with her. Now, what you also see is remarkable is that not only do they feel a connection with her, they also have symbols. You see this little sign like this? This is called Paws Up. These people call themselves little monsters. Yeah? And that sign is the greeting sign between the community of Lady Gaga. Now you say, this is weird. This wouldn't work in the business world. Have any of you sat on a plane and seen people with this strange little silver computer that I've owned for about 3 months? It's called a MacBook Air. Because when I got my MacBook Air, I remember flying from Brussels to Zurich, and I'm sitting on the plane, and then I had my little computer, and I opened it up, and a guy walked along the aisle and looked at me and smiled. Now, this happens sometimes with me. He was, good-looking guy, 5'9", slim. He looked at me and smiled. I kind of smiled back. I thought it was a bit weird, but, okay, I'm open-minded. And then what happened? Halfway through the flight, I got up to go to the restroom, and as I walked down the aisle, what did I see? He had an Apple too. You see? It's a sense of community. And Steve Jobs understood this. You know the words think different? That was all about defining a sense of community around your brand. Not projecting your brand, but actually involving people in your brand. Social media, these platforms, they enable us to do that in a way we've never been able to do before. Lady Gaga understands that. So you've got to be able to talk to your customers about who you are, but you've also got to be able to engage with them in terms of shared values. And that's when you shift someone from a customer to a follower, someone who feels part of your community. Now, what else do you need to do? And this is extremely important, is that people want to feel excited. People want to know who you are. They want to know what you represent as a brand. They want to know the values we share together, but they also want to be excited about where you're going in the future. Now, again, I talk a little bit about Steve Jobs on this one. What did Steve Jobs do? He had an event, and that event was called the Macworld Conference, where he brought people together face-to-face in a venue, followers, you could say evangelists, who experienced that Apple environment. Now, what did they do? They then went out to the world after that Macworld conference and evangelized the world. But what did Steve Jobs talk about at Macworld? He didn't talk about RAM and bits and technology and speeds and high definition. He didn't talk about technology. He actually talked about the future and how his products were actually enabling the world to interact very, very differently. And this is something else your follower wants to know. They want to know, where are you going in the world? Because they want to be going there with you. If it's an exciting future, you've got to generate excitement for them. Gaga understands this. Now, by the way, what has she been saying? Now, of course, here she is, she's making political statements, several political statements. Number one, I was born this way, it's okay not to fit in. She's very, very strong in terms of drawing a future around lesbian, gay, transsexual acceptance. That's one of her key themes. That's an important customer group for her. The second thing that she's really grabbed hold of is this idea of bullying, and she's really focused on that. She was there in the White House today talking about it. She's saying that this is not acceptable. We want to change the world. But, she also makes, and that does these statements in dramatic ways. Again, a live event where she creates a huge impression. This was the meat dress at the MTV Awards. Now, this was talking about gays in the military. She'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But equally, I talked about the Target deal, that actually not just communicating your values, but actually doing it. Demonstrating through your actions that you, as a brand, not just talk about these values, but the gap between what you live and what you behave is small. Now, by the way, in the old world of business, we lied. I walked into so many organizations where the values were just bullshit. They have this mouse pad with the values of the organization written on it, the screensaver with the values that they're communicating to the world, and then you go in and experience the culture of the company, and it's so far away from the truth. The problem today is we can't lie anymore. We can't lie because they'll find out. And they'll find out and they'll talk about it. She knows that. So the other thing, of course, she says, and this is also very, very important, is that she says, and think about the message she's been sending us for the last 3 years. At a time of terrorism, global economic meltdown, she's saying, you know what, kids? It's okay to have fun and dance. She's sending an uplifting message about the future at a time of gloom. So she's very, very much understanding that people want also to go somewhere with you. And you have to be bold in communicating that. Okay. So what's amazing, you see what she's doing. What doesn't change about Lady Gaga are these three dimensions we talk about. She's very clear about what she represents, the values she cares about. She's very, very clear about the values she wants to share with her audience. And the social media stuff, that's just a tool, right? It's just a tool. What she also understands is, though, that, of course, her customers are evolving. They're not all young kids. She understands that she has to stay current. And she understands also that there's a whole world out there which is a more traditional channel. That's called print media. So while she has these amazing live events, concerts, she connects with her fans face-to-face when she's on tour, outside the hotel. She gives them these experiences. She connects with them every single day on Twitter. She connects with them on Facebook. She's connecting with them through YouTube or her Gaga vision. She also works with this guy. Now, this is a lot of people don't know this guy. This is Formichetti. He is the editor of Vogue Japan. He's half Italian, half Japanese, and he is part of this house of Gaga. She surrounds herself with creative people who understand these different media channels we've been talking about. And what does he understand? He understands a couple of things. He understands fashion, and what he does is he advises her on the future. So when we're talking about who am I, who are we, we're also talking about where am I going, not just in terms of the politics she's talking about, but she also wants to be cutting edge. And part of that cutting edge is fashion. And what he also does with her is he helps her understand the mass media, the traditional media channels. He's the guy who gets her into Vogue, into the print media. So, if we summarize this story, we've talked about the core. Number one, know what your brand is. What are the values you want to communicate to people? Number two, understand how to connect with your consumer and make them feel significant. Make them feel that they're part of a community and they can contribute, that there's a dialogue, not a monologue. The last thing that you have to do, if you really want people to become a follower as opposed to a customer, then you've got to give them this sense of excitement, that by being with you, that they are part of something bigger. Steve Jobs was brilliant at this. Lady Gaga has understood it as well. Okay? So this is what I think we're talking about in this world of mass intimacy. It's all about moving from marketing and communication to something we do to people, to this idea that a relationship is something we do together with people. And to do that effectively, you can't use one channel anymore. And if you're fragmented in the way you're having these conversations with your consumer, they're going to be confused. The key to success here, and as we've seen with Gaga, is surrounding yourself with the right people and going to the world in an integrated way. And that hasn't really happened up until now. So good luck.